So, I think we are now online. Good morning and good evening or good afternoon, everyone on the line. And thank you very much for joining today's webinar for EV charging and RFID integrated mobility solutions, presented by Beontag and NXP. On the next slide, we are having a short overview of today's presenters, which are Luca Lapenna, Control Director at Beontag, Susanne from NXP System Solution Manager, and Graham Gillot, VP of Sales at Universal Smart Cards, as well as Wikus Vorster, Sales Manager at Universal Smart Cards, and myself, Marketing from NXP. On the next slide, we are quickly going through the agenda points. So we are going to start with the EV landscape globally. Then we are going to give you some information and insights on the EV charging market, current state and secure authentication. Then as well, followed by the Beontag portion on sustainability as a key driver for RFID solutions, as well as a short insight and outlook in the US market. So please type your questions during the session into the Q&A box, where you find the bottom at the top. And we have reserved time at the end of the webinar to answer all your questions. With that, I hand over to Susanne.
Thank you, Matthias. So also from my side, a big hello. Thanks for joining this webinar today. So let's dive into the EV charging landscape. So yeah, what's the landscape for today? Of course, the EV charging market is still rapidly evolving. Solutions must be flexible and scalable. They need to be reliable, efficient, resilient, and of course, a big topic for EV charging systems is security, secure, and safe authentication, which is also a topic, of course, for today. EV charging systems, of course, needs to be safe and, of course, accurate in terms of power measurement. But also, of course, the complexity increases. For example, if we talk about bidirectional power transfer, so system really increase in terms of the complexity of a system. And of course, whenever the complexity increases, also the interpolability increases and the reliability changes as well. On the next slide, then we mentioning here the design challenges, what we have faced due customers, requests, feedbacks, discussions, partner discussions, or during our market research. And we came up with 6 design challenges. So one, for example, is accurate measurement. So this is and efficient power delivery. So this is all about for example, Eichrecht, being Eichrecht conform, NTEC, CTAP, or V2G, energy exchange. And then we have the increased security and safety at the edge. So here, for example, we talk about PKI, CRA, or safety standards like the UL 1998 or the IEC 61851. In terms of cloud onboarding, we see, of course, an increase of systems need to be kind of plug and play systems, like so connecting to the cloud needs to be seamless and easy. And in terms of future proving and scalability, of course, EV charging systems need to make sure that upcoming standards or market requirements needs to be able to be implemented.
Ci vediamo domani, se no.
And of course, the system need to be make sure that they are scalable, right? AI, ML, very huge topic as well in the EV charging market. So here, of course, we talk about, for example, EV charging schedule or state of health, or battery aging, for example, so to track this, for example. And then also availability and reliability. Here, of course, we need to make sure our customers actually need to make sure that the EV chargers are against or let's say resilient for hash environment for more than 10 years, for example, or that also though the already installed chargers can be maintained and live longer than 10 or 15 years. On the next slide, we have an outlook of an EV charging report. So the key takeaways are listed here. If we take a look shortly into the graph, you see that the public charging and the residential chargers will increase. From 2026 to 2040, we see here, according to this report, a CAGR increase of 12.3%. We also, of course, see that the Asian Pacific regions still will lead the EV charging market. Here, for example, we talk also about China. So the China market will increase for DC chargers. But also India will grow in terms of DC fast charging, for example. And in America, we also see a growth in DC fast charging, as well as in EMEA, where also the residential and commercial chargers will increase. Okay, and with that, I hand over to Matthias.
Thank you, Susanne. So, as most of you know, the MIFARE product families are serving more than 40 applications, and there are extremely many use cases around that. So, in different verticals like access, transportation, automotive, and many more. So, for example, as well, mobility, and in this case, for this session, also EV charging. On the next slide, I want to give you a brief overview about the MIFARE product families. We see here the MIFARE Plus product family, mainly used in transportation as well as access management, MIFARE DeskFire for multiple applications, MIFARE Ultralight for ticketing, for example. Then we have the MIFARE Duox, which is one of our latest product families. I will speak a little bit more about it in the next slides. Then we have also solutions for the digitalization of the card with MIFARE to go, which makes it very convenient and also to have then both the card and the mobile application available for end users, and of course then the MIFARE SAM. On the next slide, we talk now a little bit about the EV charging market, the current state, and what we observed and how are we going to implement there's a more secure authentication. What we have identified is that the EV charging, the public charging stations and the market around it is extremely fragmented. There is no unified approach for RFID and NFC. This is basically something what we experience in other markets as well at the beginning, because once the market is starting, then you have multiple ways people and companies are doing things in a very pragmatic way in order to get the overall system running. So this then also there lack of any standardization or guidelines. This is a start. So where we see the EV charging market right now is that it becomes more and more mature, and there is a higher need for more standardization guidelines and as well security, because the current smart card acceptance on the public charging stations, the authentication is done via the UID only approach. UID is a unique identifier. It's basically, as everybody knows, extremely easy to clone. With clones, then the consequence is fraud, brand damage, and as well it can then easily impact the mobility of the end user, because once your UID is cloned and then spread over multiple cards in different countries, someone is not only charging based on your bank account, it is then also leading easily to the case once your UID is revoked that you cannot charge your car anymore. And if you imagine that you are just on the road, you need to charge your car in an hour from now, then it is not possible with a revoked card, and you have to do then other measures. So fraud is also increasing. This is something that we got confirmed from various ecosystem partners. So it means it becomes more and more painful. So we saw that problem, and on the next slide, I want to talk a little bit more about the solution with MyFair Duox. So the MyFair Duox product is a product which is capable of unilateral ECC-based authentication, which means there is one private key stored in the chip, which is done by NXP during manufacturing, and one public key, which can be easily shared with all different ecosystem partners, especially in very fragmented markets like EV charging. So what are we going to do with that is then also we think this is a perfect solution because of the easiness of the deployment. So in a secure way, the public key can be shared even via email amongst EMSP, so electromobility service providers or CPOs who are then operating the public charging stations. So on the next slide. Again, some key highlights. Also, the VDE, the Verband Deutscher Elektroingenieure, recently issued some guidelines around EV charging and the user authentication. So the MyFair Duox comes basically with a pre-provisioned key pair, which is then according to the VDE guidelines, which makes it very easy to implement. Not only on the card side, you don't have to do a lot of special things, and as well then on the infrastructure side. On the infrastructure side, where you need only a couple of 4 NFC commands need to be updated over the air or via software update in the installed base. We are already in touch with a couple of charge point operators and reader manufacturers to get that done for the installed base, and then as well for all new charging stations, this is also going to be set as a kind of standard. So at the same time, the MyFair Duox solution is then also backwards compatible. So it means that in case there is somewhere on a countryside a public EV charging station which is not capable to do the asymmetric crypto challenge with MyFair Duox, it is still capable to charge because it's backwards compatible to the UID only approach. So that is that makes it extremely convenient, safe, and we can altogether increase the security level very easily in that entire ecosystem. On the closing section, on the next slide, here you see some available products which you can order from NXP. So as said, we have in 17 picofarad, 70 picofarad in wafer or in module. So, and as well for any further question, also different memory sizes, 2K up to 16K. Also when in case of more questions, feel free to reach out anytime to me. My contact details are here at the bottom of that slide. With that, we haven't finished on that section, and I would like to hand it over to Luca.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you for the introduction. So let's move, to the first slide of the presentation. Let's say just, brief introduction about, Beontag. We are, among the leader in respect of, RFID products. We have, a global presence. And it is also the idea and a position, to serve, the clients in every country and about the service. So I would like to start this, short journey from the next slides It's about, let's say, what we think that is very interesting for the EV world, because of course we think that the EV world is a world very keen about sustainability, about green solution and product. This is why we are here together with our partner of NXP, and the idea is to introduce our products, which is along, let's say, the aim to be, able to commit with, let's say, ESG needs. Of course, there was a lot of talk about ESG requirements, ESG needs, ESG targets worldwide. Now there are some changes, but we think that is here to stay. So let me, start from the next step, showing that in Beontag, let's say, we are, let's say, very keen in, let's say, ESG strategy. We put a very, let's say, high target to be reached by 2030. And let's say here, of course, we can show some of these targets. But I say in general, what I would like to underline, the first, the first line we show about the sustainable product sold, the targets and the result. That is within the Beontag group. I think it's important to underline, because that, I think, is something that really all the companies are in common, because this is as I said before, is a target, is a trend where I think all of us must be in for a multiple reason. And so I think the idea is this is how we can contribute, let's say, to help to achieve in the right way, which of course with the right balance as far as economics and also of customer satisfaction. So let me introduce with the next slides about the product we are talking about. So what we are launching now is our bio-paper card. So the idea is say, okay, market, the people buying electricity vehicles are of course very keen to protect the environment, but still now the majority of the product used for recharge is made of with PVC paper. So the idea is let's say also add to the offer to this client a new solution. This is why we developed this quite unique product, is bio paper card. In these ways we show is together with the Duox technology. And the idea is to combine the highest performance of RFID with environmental and solution. So in the next slide, I would like to show how the difference. So just very briefly, you can see here how is PVC cards and how is produced instead our bio paper card, let's say, because it's very important, because from them then you can appreciate why the choice to move to this product makes really a lot of sense. And also, let's say, about the communication. So in the next, what we do, and you can see in the next slide, if we compare, let's say, the PVC car production to the our, let's say, solution. If you can see, it's important. I would like to mention all the information we reported here are from third-party study and laboratories. So it's not produced, let's say, by independent sources. And you can see it's, there are huge difference in respect of the production and huge saving. And, if you look, for example, to the average GHG, the greenhouse emission, you see, more or less, the bio paper card is 7 times less what's in respect of PVC cards. If you look to the, end of life, PVC cards, we know that it's extremely difficult to recycle how it works. Our product is 90% biodegradable. And, also I think it's important because it's not just about the product, is also about, let's say, where the products are coming from. We know now that the majority of PVC card that you use for your clients are not produced in Europe. And on the other side, because as I mentioned before, because our global presence, we have, the production is based in Europe. So it's not just the product itself, but it's also from where you get the product. And also the last thing to be considered is also the emission during production. So we have, this three level is about the product itself, from where the product is coming, and also, the emission you are producing during the making of the card. So if you combine all these three elements, you see there's also, let's say, from a small piece, of things, you can really save it. You can really do something. And I think this type of information is not just useful for us, but also could be interesting for the client, because it's not, let's say, greenwashing, but it's real stuff, let's say, to be shown to the market, let's say. So on the next slide, let's say, we can go, let's say, we try to, let's say, summarize what we think are the most important add-on of our product. As I said before, the idea is to have our bio paper card a plastic-free product. We know now also from recent study, which on the top of the, of the greenhouse emission, also the plastic is a really big issue. So I think this is, is a quite effective achievement, and very interesting. I think in general, I would like to mention still, as far as the sustainability, our FSSC certified paper. FSSC, I think you are familiar with this certification because it's one of the most known worldwide, that's granted, really can trace the complete supply chain of the product. So that's, I think, is really something, and of course, also something that you can show to your clients about, the products, and about how you care about to deliver a certain type of product. I also would like to, as far when you move more to the operation, that, as I mentioned, because of our global presence in the countries, we can be really close to the client, and we cannot just, produce the card, but also deliver, personalized and everything. So the idea is try to be very close to the client for, not just a sustainable reason, but also because we think at the end of the day is a service business. So we try to combine in this solution, let's say, the advantage of eco standard, the reliability, the quality of our tradition, being one of the leader in RFID, the very good relationship with the NXP, so the understanding of the product, and I think the opportunity to be seen not just as a supplier, but as a partner because of this, because of course there is a number of challenges that the industry are facing, also in respect of the security, managing the data, and so on. And we hope to be in a position, let's say, to deliver. So this is more or less the most what we think the top feature for our bio paper card. So in my last, slides, that's I can show you next. Let's say it's about the benefit. Some of the benefits was already mentioned by our partners for NXP. I would like to underline a very important element is about interoperability, and I think about the Duox itself. I think, we think that one of the opportunity of this market is to use additional services on the top of charging of the car. And so the idea is, I think this combination using also Duox technology allow really to be that the card can become a sort of a platform, or where you can offer to your customer additional services. So of course you can imagine when you do the charging, you can buy from micro payment to loyalty program. All this type of stuff is a perfect platform. So that, I think, is the good way to proceed, because when you're giving in the hands of your customer, the cards is a way to communicate. So, and in this digital world, sometimes it's very difficult to communicate, to try to find the right way to leave something and to stay in contact with your clients. So our idea through our cards, and hopefully appreciating, let's say, the sustainability of the product, and with the technology of NXP, you can have really a platform that are able to offer additional services, which means, of course, revenue increase, but also a different customer experience. So that is what we call value-added services. And, that's where we think, it's a very good, combination of elements. So, and now I think is the next step. I just pass again, let's say, to, our NXP partner, to go on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Luca. Yeah, so we from NXP want to make sure that we come up with solutions which accelerate the adoption of sustainable technologies. So we are developing time-saving, scalable solutions for reliable, secure, and efficient EV chargers, and of course for regulated energy payment. And so on the right side here, you see where we from NXP play already a role in the EV charging field. So we have a huge product portfolio in these shown listed segments. So for example, on the car type, we have our MyFair products, especially now the MyFair Duox, but also we have our MyFair To Go, for example, if customers want to use the phone type. On the charger itself, we have a broad portfolio for MPUs, MCUs, for host controllers or for SACs or HMI. So meaning, for example, for the SAC, we have like the i.MX 9 series, the 8 series, but also the RT, our crossover MCUs, but also already our M6 MCUs as well. Then we have our functional safety products like the S32 case or our M6L, which comes also with certifications in terms of safety requirements. Then we have our external secure elements like the SS0, 50, 51 series. And then, of course, we also need analog RTCs, analog front ends, temperature sensors, magnetic sensors. We also have a portfolio for this, of course. And then whenever it is related to power management, we also help here our customers designing and using the right PMIC. And then also to mention is our proven metrology MCU, so our KM series. This comes also with 24 sigma delta and 60-bit ADCs to be able to measure from some milliamps to some 100 amps in a very accurate way. And also, of course, our metering library. Then we have, of course, the contactless reader for all our NFC products. And then also to be able to communicate to the backend wireless, we have our Wi-Fi products, but also our BLE products, for example, for commissioning. On the next slide, then we see a solution overview, what are currently available on our web. So on the left side, you have an example which uses an MPU, the i.MX 93, where we run the ISO 15118 stack from our partner Stack 7 Stacks, but also we have this solution available on the AirRest platform, so with the ISO 15118-2. And for the 7 stacks, we provide -2 and -20. In the middle, you see a good example of, let's say, basic charging or entry-level charger and 2 or 3-wheeler solution. And on the right side, so this is also where we have implemented the MyFair Duox into this solution. So this is our MCU platform with the MCU as a SAC controller, and where we also run the ISO 15118-2 and -20 standard. Okay, and with that, I will hand over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for your time. I am Wikus Vorster, and I will be taking you through a high-level snapshot of the US EV charging landscape with a specific focus on the value and outlook of RFID-enabled recharge cards in this very fragmented but evolving market. So established in 2001, with offices in California and the UK, Universal Smart Cards has been a long-standing development and distribution partner of Beontag in the North American market. Under the leadership of Gillot, our Vice President of Sales, we provide extensive expertise in sales enablement, market support, channel distribution, and advanced technical capabilities for our partners. In the US specifically, we provide local stock holding, on-demand ordering, custom printing, secure encoding, and fast turnaround times. So let's move on to the next slide where we take a look at the US charging landscape. The United States EV charging market is experiencing unprecedented growth. It's driven by a convergence of sustainability imperatives, technological innovation, and evolving customer expectations. Now, as you'll note on the slide there, at a national level, the US now has roughly 204,000 public charging ports. When we look at the NRL data set, this is the benchmark for utilization studies, we see just over 50,000 public locations and close to 130,000 verified ports. So the NRL is the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. This is the US government's primary research center for energy systems. They use much stricter verification and focus on operational, publicly accessible charges, whereas national totals often include broader categories such as restricted access charges and deployments in progress. Now, as the market accelerates, stakeholders must navigate complex trends around ESG commitments, supply chain resilience, and digital security, each of these shaping the competitive landscape and investment priorities. Because of the fragmentation in the ecosystem, there is a heightened focus on interoperability and standardization across different charging networks. So for that reason, governments and industry bodies are actively promoting initiatives that allow for the use of a single RFID card across a multitude of charging providers, eliminating the hassle of managing multiple cards and payment methods. This push for standardization directly benefits consumers by simplifying the charging process and fosters greater competition amongst charging network operators. Let's look at the next slide on EV adoption by state. The US market is very active. When we zoom into the state level adoption, the picture becomes even more compelling. California leads with 1.26 million EV registrations and over 52,000 public charging ports. Florida, Texas, Washington, and New York also show strong numbers. The ratios of EVs per port varies, with New York having just 7 EVs per port, indicating a robust infrastructure. Top states for EV adoption during 2025 include New Jersey, Illinois, Texas, Hawaii, and Florida, each showing significant growth from 2019 to 2023. There are also currently underserved but high growth states where rapid EV adoption is outpacing infrastructure development. This overview highlights both mature markets and areas with infrastructure gaps, offering opportunities for strategic investment. Let's move ahead and look at the emerging trends in the US market. So the first one there is ESG pressures are accelerating investment in EV infrastructure. Corporations and municipalities are under increasing pressure to meet aggressive decarbonization targets. Now, RFID cards play an important role here. They enable seamless, contactless access to charging, reduce friction, and support operational efficiency, all of which contribute to lower emissions at the station level. Supply chain resilience has been severely affected by geopolitical tensions and component shortages, which has pushed operators to diversify sourcing. So RFID providers like ourselves and Beontag are prioritizing transparency and agility to ensure uninterrupted deployment. Data-driven decision-making is achieved by integrating RFID systems with analytics to allow operators to optimize station utilization, forecast demand, and improve the overall customer experience, and thus ultimately driving a stronger return on investment. Let's look at some more emerging trends on the next slide. We note in the US market that cloud adoption is becoming the standard. Operators are moving to cloud and multi-cloud platforms for scalability, real-time monitoring, and interoperability across networks. Try saying that 5 times fast. Interoperability. At the same time, cybersecurity has become a top priority as RFID cards and EV charging systems handle payments and access control. Investments in encryption, intrusion detection, and compliance frameworks is accelerating to protect sensitive user and operational data. Let's have a look at the market drivers on the next slide. Looking ahead, several forces are driving the RFID EV recharge card market. Now, this is specifically to do with the actual physical cards. The figures you note on the slide represent new card issuances. So the total active cards in circulation will be significantly higher as the US EV fleet is projected to reach over 30 million vehicles by 2030. The NEVI mandate is pushing towards 500,000 public chargers by 2030. That is a significant amount of growth, and the rapid expansion of fleet management accounts as well. So commercial fleet adoption is a major stabilizer for this fragmented market. While individual consumers may be shifting to apps in metropolitan areas, fleet managers rely on physical RFID cards for simplified driver authentication and multi-network roaming. The growth to 7.2 million new annual RFID EV recharge card sales by 2035 is supported by the mandate for interoperable payment systems at federally funded charging stations, which helps drive consolidation within the market. Heavy duty and freight electrification is a niche growth vector. Planned truck charging points and national freight corridor strategies create demand for robust RFID solutions. This is for depot access as well as for fleet billing. And importantly, RFID remains the fail-safe authentication method in areas with low cellular connectivity, which is still common across the US. This ensures that physical cards will remain essential even as digital solutions grow. Beyond this, the RFID recharge cards provide extended benefits to CPOs and all service providers, as well as customers. The back-end processing is very low energy. It requires minimal data transmission and much fewer cloud calls. So RFID cards don't rely on smartphones or internet connectivity. The system is it's higher reliability. It's enhancing the overall customer experience because they will experience fewer failed charging attempts. So that is pretty much in a nutshell what the US market looks like. Going over to the last slide, in summary, the US EV market is scaling rapidly. Infrastructure gaps are widening, and RFID remains the most reliable, interoperable, and future-proof method of authentication. Now, Universal Smart Cards is uniquely positioned with global experience, US-based services, and deep technical capabilities to support all operators, OEMs, and networks as they're expanding. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I will now open the floor for your questions.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your presentation and your insightful slides. We did receive a few questions, so I'll get started with one to the NXP team. Is there already a MIFARE Duox integration to the NFC reader library and/or NCI library available? Especially an example for the EV charging use case would be appreciated.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Let me answer it quickly. So we have a concrete description in one of our application notes, which is application note 14223, which you can easily get from the NXP webpage, or you simply Google that. Secondly, what I wanted to add there is based on the VDE commands or VDE guideline. The VDE guideline is based on brain pool curves, which seem to be a little bit more difficult to implement in the installed base. That's why we are driving currently in parallel another solution to then also use NIST 256 curves for a faster adaptation. At the end, the EV charging station, they do not need an additional hardware or any hardware change. They can stay as they are. It is simply a software or update to be done. So it's not by far not rocket science. And we are already in close contact with a couple of the reader manufacturers to get that implemented. Thank you for that question. In case of more questions, reach out to me.
Perfect. Thank you, Matthias. So another question, I believe this would go to you, Susanne. How do you distinguish with the Easy EVSC MCU development platform if a non-MIFARDUX card or a MIFARDUX card is used?
All right, so thanks for the question. Yes, so in our system solution, we have included, let's say, some code lines in the NFC library, which also refers a bit to the question below, before, and where we are asking for the card type of the MIFAR card, so either it's a MIFARDUX or non-MIFARDUX card, and also, of course, we're asking for the UID. So since the MIFARDUX card has the card type, let's say, or request for the card type, we can say, okay, either it's a MIFARDUX card type or it's not. So this is how we solved it in our solution.
Great,
thank you for the question.
Thank you for answering, Susanne. Just a quick reminder that we still have plenty of time to answer any questions you may have. So please feel free to use the Q&A box and drop your questions. And another one, let me see. Okay, so is there hardware change requirements for the EV charging stations?
No, again, thank you for that question. No, there are no hardware changes required for the EV charging stations or for the installed base, or even not for the new ones. So it's a simple update of 4 NFC commands to be implemented in the software. So it's an easy to do.
Perfect, thank you. So another question. How is an EV car connected with instant torque and tire made? Oh, okay. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. I would maybe request a rephrase. And in the meantime, I'll check if there are any other questions. Okay, so we don't have other questions. Maybe if there are any final comments or notes from any of our speakers, you may want to turn on your camera for final remarks. Otherwise, I believe we can also close the call. Oh, one question.
Yes.
Actually, I'm so sorry, Susanne.
Go ahead. Please.
If I can interrupt you, I did receive one more question. Is Universal Smart Cards SOC2 or ISO 27001 certified to manage secure service bureau encoding locally?
Yes, I'll answer that. We are certified with a number of certifications. I'll confirm that we can actually do that locally. Locally, I'm assuming you mean in the USA. We do this in the UK and Europe. We're probably in the process right now of doing that for the US, but I'll confirm once that's confirmed. And we have the set once I absolutely am sure.
Great, thank you. Okay, so sorry, Susanne, back over to you, and then we'll close the webinar.
All right. So I think I forgot to mention before, for each of our system solutions, especially also for the case where we have the MyFit2Works product integrated into our system solution, we provide documentations on our web. So please just go on NXP/EVAC, and then you will find more details about all the solutions, what we are offering. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I feel like my reminder about closing the call maybe prompted some other listeners to drop their questions. So we actually received one or more. So I'll just go through some final questions as we still have time. There's one question, maybe NXP team can comment on that about the UID only solutions. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit about the UID only solution and how it is not enough of a security, and how to convince integrators about this topic?
Then also a good question. Thank you for that. We have not yet dedicated slides about it, but there are multiple open source videos available on YouTube to clone UIDs. Simply Google clone UIDs. We at NXP, we are a little bit hesitating presenting methods how to clone a UID, right? Because it's not so targeted for us, let's say. But it's we can also Alcina was it? So please feel free to drop me an email, and then we can have a separate discussion on what we have available internally and regarding that the UID only approach or clones of UIDs. But we have
If I just add something, Matthias, about this concept, we are also quite familiar. Let's say it's if you see, more value you have on your on your card, more security you need. As Matthias said, unfortunately, UID only is a very, very low level of security. There is a number of chain that you can duplicate. So nowadays, if you consider also, if you look, I don't know, for a public transportation ticket, which are very low value, also these have, using a more complex approach, pre-encoded, and not just the simple UID. So that is, so they needs to increase the security level according to the service you are providing is really a must. And also, I like to add that about the concept to offer multiple services. This is even more important because it's offered together with the charging, micropayment, and something like that. So you can understand that it's really important the security you have into the chip. Let's say.
Very good point. Thanks a lot, Luca. Fully right.
Okay, there's one final question about the future of EV charging. I'm not sure who might be the right person to answer, but feel free to jump in. So basically, will the plug and charge adoption increase, or RFID will dominate in the future? What are your thoughts?
Then I looked into that into various trends in the overall EV charging space. So it's if we take, for example, the example in Europe, you have here EV charging EV car owners who have multiple RFID cards at the moment because the overall charging system is so fragmented. So there are persons who have 4 or up to 8 different charging cards in their pocket. So of course there are then also other trends like roaming, which absolutely makes sense. So that EMSPs and CPOs are working together and building a network so that you have then less cards in your pocket. Yes, and it absolutely makes sense. And as well, this plug and charge approach is also helping to reduce the complexity and make it more convenient. Nevertheless, what my experience here, speaking for NXP, I'm working for more than 21 years within NXP. So is simply that the RFID card or a smart card in that sense is complementary. So it is, and you are going to have a lot of applications which can be made by the mobile phone meanwhile, but you are still having a card. Same, for example, your banking card, right? So you still have a Visa, Mastercard while you can do mobile payments at the same time, right? So it's going to be complementary. This is my view.
Yeah, thanks, Matthias. And maybe to add here is, when we talk with customers or OEMs or partners, so there is still a challenge with plug and charge integration. It sounds easy, but it isn't. So we still see those folks who are, let's say, very struggling with the implementation, because this is also related to the ISO 15118 standard. That means it has space for interpretation of integration. So that might be that, for example, the car from this brand does not so work well with an EV charger from another brand. So this is also something what, of course, the organization is to change, so to make this standard more clear to understand and easier to understand. However, as I said, customers are still, let's say, having challenges to implement the plug and charge into the EV charger. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I believe that does take us to the end of the webinar. Thank you once again to all our speakers, and thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you in our future webinars. Thank you.